I guess piano was my first instrument. Yeah.
How did it lead to
You know, I think I was fortunate because I grew up in a family where everybody got music lessons. And there was a school band in when I was in like, I guess third grade. That's when I started playing horn, started playing trombone. But, I had piano lessons from a really young age. And like a lot of kids, it wasn't my favorite thing to do. And I think the thing that bugged me about it was that, what they were teaching you in this rather traditional piano school was to play the same way every time. That it was like learn it off the page and always play it that way. And even at the age of 6, I was like, I was suspicious about that. That just didn't seem right somehow. Not that whatever, I'm probably just bored or something. But I started playing trombone when I was 7. And then, and that was because my dad was an amateur piano player. There was a Steinway in our house when I grew up that had belonged to my father's mother, who was the family entertainer for many years and would sing, play parlor songs that everyone would sing and at the holidays. So my dad, Monterey.
Yeah, and planes too.
So my dad was kind of an amateur Tin Pan Alley song player. So when I started playing horn, I started learning songs by reading over his shoulder in these old fake books of tunes. And I played trombone for a couple of years, and then I switched to trumpet when I was 9. And really the only reason, in hindsight, there's no real logic to it. It was just that in the school band, the trombone players all had just the long notes, and the trumpets had the melody, and I was more curious about playing the melody parts. And I think that I had classical lessons, and I just sort of, in a mellow way, rebelled by trying to add my own touch to the pieces I was playing. And if you've ever had music lessons, you know that that's a real no-no. And I think that's how it came about. The funny thing for me was that parallel to having these sort of conventional classical music lessons, I had a lot of records around. I was listening to not that. What is that? Hard to think.
Yeah, I know.
So it was interesting for me because alongside these kind of conventional classical music lessons, I had a really active listening life. Like my father had classical records and early jazz records. I have 2 older sisters and an older brother, so they also had the pop music of the day that they were listening to. So this is like really young that I don't know why, but it was an incredible place to be for me within the music. I just listened to music all the time, and luckily enough, my father had the Smithsonian collection of classic jazz, which, as you know, goes up until the late 60s, and I gravitated towards those last few LPs. By the time I was 10 or so, that's, I was memorizing Ornette Coleman and Miles Davis and Cecil Taylor and the Monk track that's on there, Eric Dolphy, Bill Evans, Gil Evans, Miles, of course. And it wasn't because anybody told me to do it. It wasn't because somebody said, this is the good stuff, stick with this. It was more like, I think, going back to those first instincts to improvise. That music felt like it was happening in the moment. It felt like somebody with some urgency was taking a hold of something and really bringing their entire focus to bear. Not that that's not happening in classical music or other kinds of music, but from where I stood, I felt like as a player I wanted to really be involved in the most maximal way of being completely inside the music. And I think when you're young, you just kind of do that and you assume that it's okay. And as you get older, you realize maybe it's not as easy as you thought it was, and more challenges come in as you learn more about what goes into music and the whole social aspect of the music, where it comes from, and the lives of the masters and the rules of different ways of playing, especially within jazz. It's become such a broad language that to really learn to play it, I feel like you've got to approach it a lot of different ways and think about it in different ways. And so that's kind of was my early education in music.
So, Dave,